Now this, guys, is what they call a Chinese finger trap. If you want to get your finger out, the most obvious thing to do is to pull your finger. But the more you pull, the more you get stuck. And this is a great image also for what a lot of people go through in their relationships. When you're going through a divorce, the instinct you're going to have is to pull your partner back in again. But the more you try to pull her back in, the more you actually get stuck. And this is going to be a very important video because I've been seeing more and more coaches and more programs pop up with a lot of quick fixes and short-term tactics. They use a lot of logical appeals to try to stop divorce or separation. They tell you to write letters, covert contracts, addressing topics of divorce directly, talking about the relationship directly, and many other things that you can potentially come across. And it makes a lot of sense what they're saying, because of course, if you want to avoid divorce, then you need to address avoiding divorce head on. But sometimes it's not that clear cut. So remember that in life, there are two types of outcomes. So number one, you have what we call striving outcomes. So think about lifting weights, for example, when it comes to striving outcomes. The more willpower you use to lift that weight, the more likely you are to get that striving outcome. But not all things in life are what we call striving outcomes. Some things in life are falling outcomes. So falling asleep is a great example of a falling outcome. The more you try to will yourself to fall asleep, the less likely you are to fall asleep. And relationships and marriages, just like falling asleep, is a falling outcome. And falling outcomes need falling processes. If you try to use striving processes to get falling outcomes, you are going to be so stuck. That's why we call it falling in love for a reason, because love is really, again, a falling outcome. The most obvious thing to do is to obviously directly address it and directly try to stop it. But understand that when you try to do this, that is you using a striving outcome. And that's actually going to get you away, further away from the falling outcome that you actually want. So imagine you're an insomniac and you have a hard time falling asleep. And I try to tell you, and you try to tell yourself, to try to go to sleep. Most likely, this is going to make you more of an insomniac. And so guys, I'm going to talk you through the 5 steps that I teach all my clients and why our program has a much higher success rate. So if you want to actually check out the program or join the program or apply for the program, I'll leave the link to the masterclass that you have to join first down below this video or also up above my head here. And towards the end of the masterclass, I'll show you how to apply for the program if you're interested in doing so. And the first step that you want to do, guys, is just to change your mindset and your approach. And just like anything when it comes to success in life, everything starts with really mindset. 90% of this game is mindset. So most people, when they're in this situation, they try to make it about you versus your partner. So your desire for not divorce versus your partner's desire for divorce or separation or space, what have you. But what you want to do is to switch this philosophy to you and her versus the problems. Understand that for now, reconciliation or your desire to reconcile is actually fundamentally quite selfish. So here, it is you who wants to reconcile, but it is your partner that doesn't want to reconcile. Because here, your partner has already decided that leaving may be her best option, her best move. So if you try to address the divorce head on, then you can see how this fundamentally and naturally just makes it about you versus her automatically. So instead, the first step I want you to make is that in your mind, I want you to define what the problem actually is. The problem is not her divorce. The problem is not her itself. The problem is her unhappiness towards the relationship. So you want to make this about you and her versus the unhappiness that she feels in the relationship. And I want you to use this mindset to lean into the conversation to talk about her desire for divorce, not the divorce itself. Any of your approaches to try to stop divorce right now, to try to say the right things to avoid divorce right now, it's not going to work because your partner has already thought of it all. Your partner has really thought this through and has really seen the value that you have to offer. And basically she's saying that value is just not worth it. In fact, this strategy only shows a lot of weakness, a lot of insecurity, and a lot of lack of awareness. And it shows that you really care only about your interest, about what you want, and not really her best interest. And I'm not saying here to encourage divorce. I'm actually saying for you to get curious about her desire for divorce. I don't want you to talk about the divorce itself, for example. Like, hey, tell me what can I do and what can I say to avoid this divorce? Or write letters promising her that you'll be better, for example. But the conversation should become about her unhappiness and maybe even your contribution for her desire for divorce. And I know this sounds a bit batshit crazy, guys. I get it. And you might be thinking right now, Jeff, you want me to avoid divorce by not talking about divorce, by actually admitting my mistakes? That sounds fucking crazy. But I want you to think about this in terms of business, for example. Let's say you are about to fire an employee because this employee has made a lot of mistakes, too many mistakes. And not only is he making mistakes, but he seems to be very unaware or very in denial that he's making these mistakes. And you're saying, hey, sorry, man, we got to let you go. And the person makes a whole conversation about, okay, man, tell me what I need to do. Tell me what I need to say to avoid getting fired right now. I really need this job right now. He tries to pity card. He tries to gaslight you into not firing him. He tries to tell you about how valuable he actually is and how you have been getting this whole thing wrong about how you totally misunderstood him. Would that actually make you want to not fire him? Or if the guy instead sits down and says, okay, you want to fire me? Okay, so tell me more about the problems here. And then he listens to the problems and he goes, you know what? I see it. I see where the problems are. I see that I haven't been really serving the company's interests very well. And I admit the mistake and I'm accepting it. Even though you're not really addressing the firing directly, that kind of response will actually make the employer think maybe this guy does have some awareness. And with that awareness, maybe this guy can actually change. That actually brings a lot more curiosity and a lot more doubt to my decision to fire the person. And actually, it is people's selfish desire to want to reconcile right now that actually makes your partner reluctant to talk to you in the first place. Because again, we have to remember that reconciliation is fundamentally selfish. Right now, you want to reconcile. Your partner doesn't want to reconcile, right? So if you want to make this about the divorce, understand that what you're saying also is that I don't really care about what you want, partner, but I really care about talking about what I want. And if you create this dynamic that is you versus your partner like this, then your partner's not going to want to be part of the conversation. Because again, why would she when you don't have her best interest in mind? But if you, again, make the conversation about you and her versus solving the unhappiness, then you are giving a sign here that it's you and your partner versus the problems, and you actually have her best interest in mind. And that really changes the whole dynamic of that conversation. But again, you are in a very pivotal time of your life right now. And like this client said, reconciliation is a journey full of paradoxes. There's very little room for mistakes usually right now, and you're right now at a very important tipping point in your relationship. And if you join the wrong program, if you use the wrong strategies right now, it's not actually a light version of the right program. You're actually running faster in the wrong direction. So don't be an idiot because you don't have 20 minutes to watch a video that could really change the course of how you deal with your reconciliation right now. And guys, we are on a mission to make marriages great again. And if you want no bullshit strategies that can actually help you get to permanent reconciliation and not these fake reconciliations that a lot of these other gurus and coaches and programs are teaching you, then click subscribe and also click the bell button as well when I post new videos every single week. The second step is when we give what we call in our program the initial TTH script, or the treating the hemorrhage script. And this is designed for two purposes. One is you're showing your partner here that you are adopting the perfect process approach, not perfect product approach. Right now, in this very moment, I'm showing you that I have the process to be able to take in feedback. And once I take in feedback, I can do something about it and grow from it. Your partner will not let you go if she believes that you have the perfect process to change. So again, we always go back to this tenet of your partner's not leaving you because of your imperfect product. Your partner's leaving you because of your imperfect product coupled with your imperfect process to get better. And this can be due to lack of humility. This can be the lack of listening, the lack of admission, the lack of acceptance. But again, once you can show your partner that, yes, you may be still imperfect as a product, but you have the perfect process to actually get on an upwards trajectory, you'll be surprised as to how your partner's mind can change about you very, very quickly. And the second purpose of this too is to also plant seeds, implicit seeds, show your intentions, and show that you are now taking on a much better team mindset, that you actually now have our best interest in mind. And there are two areas usually where my clients give a TTH. You can give a TTH about the divorce process itself. So for example, hey, so I know you understand you want to start the divorce process right now. And you know what? I'm not going to say much to try to stop it or try to convince you to stay. I'm not making this easy because it's just me wanting to just do or say whatever I need to say to get you on my side. But it's just that I realize, in the past, whenever we have conversations about life, about directions in life, about next steps, I realize that it's never been your benefit as a top of mind. It's always been my benefit. I realize that right now, I haven't been really the best partner for you. I haven't been the best person for you. I don't think I make you the happiest. And what I don't want to happen is for this conversation about the divorce process, for me to accidentally say things or suggest things that will again further benefit me and really burn you in the end. So I want to stay quiet right now because I really want to make sure that this whole process about divorce, this is really more about you and getting you what you want, not just about getting me what I want. So that could be an example of a TTH that you give about the divorce process. You could also give a TTH about the discovery of her unhappiness. So for example, you can say, hey, throughout this whole divorce process, I know I haven't been there for you in the past, but I want to face the music. I want you to tell me about how I made you unhappy, how this relationship has driven you crazy. And I know I've said this before in the past, but I'm really not saying this because I'm just trying to say whatever I need to say to, get you on my side again or to pretend or look like I have changed somehow. I realized that in the past, you actually try to share with me some of the stuff you actually think about the relationship, how you actually feel. I say I would listen, but I really wouldn't. Because as soon as you say something I don't like, I would instantly go turn it back on you, try to gaslight you, trying to show you that it didn't happen. And I just don't want to do that anymore. I realize that doesn't do anything. So right now, I just want to stay quiet and just open the door and say, if you want to just have me face the music for a bit, feel free to do so. I'm here and I'm going to just listen. So again, if you want to do either of this TTH, you have to make sure you come from the intention of you and your partner versus the problem itself. I want you to understand here that your partner wanting space, wanting divorce, wanting separation can actually be a massive opportunity if you have the right tools to address it. Think about if you were in your partner's shoes right now. Think about the pattern interrupt that you got just now. Think about the amount of doubt, amount of positive suspicion that you get from hearing something like that. You'd be thinking, hold up, that's not what I was expecting. Maybe my fears were wrong. Maybe my fears that this person cannot change or will not change is actually wrong. Maybe my fears that there's no hope in this relationship is actually wrong. Because I'm seeing for the first time some humility, admission, some acceptance from this guy. And just like with the 12-step program, admission and acceptance is the first step to any growth. And this can become a massive mic drop in your relationship. And this usually becomes a very pivotal conversation in the relationship for my clients. But again, it must be done correctly. It must be done artfully with the right what, with the right how, with the right intentions, with the right why as well. And after you give the initial TTH, know that that TTH is you indirectly planting seeds of your perfect process, of your different approach going forwards. And when you plant seeds like that, you're also implying that you're going to approach this differently going forward and that you're going to do something about the problems that you have just identified. And if you do not have the internal shifts to actually deliver, the process to actually deliver on the stuff you promised. So if you say, for example, hey, here's the mistakes I'm admitting to, I see it now, I see the mistakes, the implication is that you're going to do something about it. If you cannot deliver on what you discovered and deliver the solutions and deliver the improvement, deliver the growth in the next few weeks, the next few months, that TTH, that framework can actually backfire. Because once you TTH, once you framework, that's when actually time starts ticking. So when you plant a flag of your promise with a TTH, you're going to invite a lot of curiosity, a lot of doubt, a lot of suspicions, because we have to remember your partner's headspace when she's going through this stuff right now. So your partner usually have gone through what we call the promise, hope, and disappointment cycle. So your partner in the past have seen a lot of times when you promise something, you promise you're going to do something different, you're going to change, you're going to do better, you're going to make her happier. And that brings the hope up. But when you cannot deliver on those promises, that gets her to the disappointment cycle. And when she feels disappointed, things break down again and you make another promise. Maybe you find another promise, another script, another letter, another tactic that you can find on the internet. And then you get her hope up again. And after this happens once, twice, 10 times, 50 times, at some point, your partner's going to say, fuck this, right? I'm not going to get fooled again. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me 50 times, fucking shame on me. So when you give a TTH just one more time, you're basically just promising and giving her another promise in a different way. You're basically saying, I'm going to try a different approach, a different process to growing myself right now. Because she's been fooled 50 times in the past or more, this will bring a lot of doubt, a lot of suspicions, a lot of resistance. And this is why we encourage our clients to really work on what we call your TTH, your internal and your framework guns. There are 3 guns that I really want my clients to master. So number 1 is that as you do your internal work, you're going to be able to come up with more ammunition for your TTH and for your frameworks. So for example, as you realize more and more victim mindsets, as you realize more and more DODs or disguises of desires, you'll get more ammo to say for the old self and new self part, the intentions part of your TTH, for example. And if you are not aware of what we call victim mindsets, what disguises of desires are, DODs are, you can check out the internal shift series I have up above my head here. But basically, if you look back at the TTH that I gave earlier about when I said, hey, I'm just going to be staying quiet right now because I realized that whenever you come to me with your problems, with your ideas, with your feelings, I really always make it about me and not about you. That could be, for example, equal blame illusion as part of the victim mindsets. So you are not going to come up with the idea to actually state that intention, to admit that, to give that TTH if you haven't really thought about how the equal blame illusion exists in your life, in your mind, and how that has manifested in your own relationship, right? But if you have thought about that, then as you realize more and more of your flaws, more and more of your mistakes, more and more of how these victim mindsets and these DODs have affected you, the more ideas you will have about what to say in terms of what to admit, what to accept, what to acknowledge about your contribution to the problem of her unhappiness. But without that thought process, you will not be able to come up with a lot of ammo. And as you grow the actual skill of your TTH itself, you'll also be able to spot more opportunities. And the best way to understand this is almost like you take one lawyer who's very experienced, who's very good at the law itself, at the grasp of the principles of the law. That lawyer is going to be able to come up with more loopholes, come up with more creative angles on how to argue a case, on how to win a case, as opposed to the lawyer who's very inexperienced will have very less ideas. So the lawyer who's experienced, he will not find the ideas, but it doesn't mean the ideas are not there. He just cannot see it. You need to master the rules like a pro so you can improvise like a fucking artist. And with more gun versatility, you're going to see a lot more opportunity. You can have cold opportunities when your partner may be stonewalling you, maybe giving you the cold shoulder and not starting any conversations, but you'll be able to find a way to use the TTH and framework versatility to actually find a way in, find an angle in. And if you watch a lot of my interviews with people who are in no contact, you will see this pattern that as they master their skills, they'll find more and more ways that they couldn't see before. This could also be you implanting very implicit seeds. So an example of this, right? I used to have very intense road rage. One time we were driving a car and some guy cuts off in front of me. I can give a very subtle framework to just say, for example, oh my God, Sam, remember how you were telling me about how I got this road rage and it makes you scared? I realized how stupid that was of me because, when I get these road rages, I realize that, I only get this few seconds of satisfaction of getting that road rage of like expressing my anger. But really, it's stupid because I have more to lose than this guy. And I have you, I have my family in the back seat, right? I have so much more to lose. So what am I doing here? I realized how stupid that was. And man, you were so right to call me out on how dumb I was. So think about the implicit seeds you can plant there from just a very fleeting moment. And you'll find that your life, usually, whether you're in a divorce process or not, you are filled with these very small fleeting moments when you can plant a lot of seeds. You can also plant explicit seeds. So this is like me giving the TTH that I gave earlier, where the seeds that I planted are more within the context of a planned conversation, a serious conversation. And you can plant a lot of seeds here. What my clients always understand is that you're always drowning in opportunities to plant seeds. But if you don't master the TTH, if you don't do your internal work, you won't see those opportunities. Step number 4 is what we call watering seeds. And that's you playing whack-a-mole almost. So here's what I want you to think about. I want you to imagine here, there are little gophers or moles on your farm. So your farm is a relationship. These moles and gophers are basically the negative confirmation bias your partner has towards you. And why she wants to leave is really the source of her unhappiness. And so these moles right now are killing the farm, right? From underground. You can't see it, but they're killing the farm from underground. And when you campaign, when you give a TTH, when you give a framework, that is like you planting a bait on the surface of the farm. And you are going to get those moles, those negative confirmation biases to come out via resistance, via anger, via suspicions, via doubt, whatever it is. But once the moles come out, that's when you can catch them and actually turn them from negative into positive. So for example, when I was trying to change myself too, my partner used to say to me, Jeff, stop talking like that. Stop talking like you've changed. Stop giving me all these promises. Stop like sounding great. You sound like a fucking therapist. Stop doing this shit. It's not even you. When she says that, that is my signal to say basically, oh, that is my partner's confirmation bias towards me, the negative confirmation bias towards me. She thinks that I'm so toxic that I'm basically changing with the wrong intention, changing from a bad place, changing with the wrong goals in mind. And when that mole comes out, that's when I can stack a campaign or counter it with a campaign to say, for example, like, I totally understand why you would think that these changes I'm making are fake, because to be honest, like I've said to you in the past how much I want to change in X ways, in Y ways, in Z ways. And to be honest, I've never made any of those happen. And so I want you to know you have every right to actually be suspicious of me right now, to actually hate me right now, to actually look at my changes and be disgusted by it right now, because I haven't really shown through actions that I can actually change. But I want you to know that no matter what happens here, no matter what happens to us, whether you decide to leave or stay or whatever it is, I need to change for me, and I'm going to change for me, and I'm going to do it for real this time. And I guess less talk here. Only time will tell. So just watch me. And if you see that I'm changing, great. If you see that these changes are fake still, then feel free to just leave. I have no hard feelings if you do leave. Think about the implicit seed you'll be planting if you say something like that. So basically, what we're doing here is you plant a seed, and when you plant a seed, that leads to doubts and a lot of suspicions. Your partner's going to test you. And when you get the doubt and suspicion, that will lead to resistance. But that resistance is a good thing, because then you'll be able to see that resistance, see that negative confirmation bias. And when you see it, only when you can see it, can you turn it from negative into positive. But again, if you never campaign and those moles stay underground, you can never see it. So I always tell my clients, when you get resistance, don't be scared by that. That's a good thing, because that resistance was actually underground this whole time. And the only thing that changes when she shows you resistance is that now you know about it. It can feel scary at first, but actually it's a good thing if you know how to turn it from negative into positive, if you know how to framework it, if you know how to TTH it. And the idea is for you to repeat, starve the bad, feed the good. And every time this happens, this is how trust slowly gets built. And it's not going to be in a straight line. It's going to be a lot of zigzags here, right? Higher highs and higher lows. But eventually, if you do this for 3 months, for 6 months, for a year, and every single time your partner doubts you, you counter with something that quells, that quashes that doubt. That is how slowly you get the trust back. The trust is not about what seeds you plant. The trust is what you do after you plant the seed. So the trust is not built in these high peaks. The trust is built by what you do on these lower peaks. So you're going to get a lot of these troughs, these resistances, these suspicions, these doubts. We call that in our program paradox of change. And the unfortunate thing is that these dips right here are where most people give up. The biggest shame I see is when people say, hey, partner, let me show you my intentions here is that I am going to change no matter what you say, no matter what happens to us, because I'm changing for me. I want to make sure that my intention for changes now is actually going to make these changes very permanent, right? Let's say you say that to your partner on day one, and your partner goes like, I don't believe it's going to be permanent, right? I don't believe you. I doubt you. I'm suspicious of you because you said that many times before. And let's say that she keeps giving you this resistance, and after 2 weeks, you give up and you stop and you just get scared. You get crumbled and stop all these changes that you promised was going to be forever. What are you saying then? You just proved to your partner that she was right, that her suspicions was right, that you never had good intentions. You never intended to make these changes permanent. You never intended to make these changes for yourself. Because once the having is taken away from you, you stop. This is why a strong internal gun and a strong external gun is so crucial. Because without that, you will eventually crumble during these dips. Because again, your partner is in a position in her mind where she wants to see, what do you do when you think no one's watching you? What do you do when you can no longer fake your actual intentions from your words? And depending on your situation, these tests can last for 3, 6, 9, 12 months, or even longer sometimes, depending on how much trust you destroyed. And as you go through the cycle of number 4, which can last a while, I want you to just allow your farm to grow. So I want you to just here confidently empower her to make her own decisions. Don't pull her in. So with a lot of my clients, when they reconcile, they don't actually have to tell their partner to reconcile. When you give the right environment, they will actually take steps to jump over fences for you to actually initiate the coming back. So I'm going to show you a snippet here of a client and I talking about this very briefly.
She's contacting me every day in front of the kids. She said, "What if we stay with the four of us here? What should we sleep with the four of us?" And the kids were, yeah, it was crazy. The reaction of the kids. She's so coming back to me and she sees the importance for the kids. She even asked me to run her e-com business together.
That's awesome, dude.
It's
And
crazy.
like you're not even the one trying to ask for this stuff, right? She's coming to you. It's almost again like the analogy that I got about like you become the brightest lighthouse, and all these boats come to your shoreline. You know, it's like I want to be there. And a lot of people make mistakes here too. So it's almost like they plant the seeds and then they see the sprout coming up, but because they're too impatient, because they want something to happen faster, they just pull the plant, and they end up killing the plant, right? Let your partner fall to you. Give her time. Trust the process. And so, like a farmer, you just need to wait. You planted the seeds. If you plant many seeds, eventually many of them will grow. Your partner will give you the clues when you get there. Clues are very subtle sometimes. And so read those clues and let reconciliation happen much more naturally. And guys, I know all this stuff that I'm saying sounds paradoxical. It sounds a bit batshit crazy. But again, remember the Chinese finger trap. Right? Relationships are a falling outcome, not a striving outcome. The more you pull, the more you get stuck. The more you try to control, the more you get stuck. But again, if you want to apply for the program that will teach you step by step on how to get this done, and surround yourself with the right community that actually allows for deep changes to be much easier for you, then also join the masterclass. And in the masterclass, I'll show you how to apply for the program if you're interested in doing so. But for now, guys, I hope that was helpful, and I'll see you in the next video.